Welcome to Alasquatch, the show all about Bigfoot in the great state of Alaska. I'm your host, Beans Baxter. So lace up your boots, zip up your coat, and come with me on an adventure as we explore all things cryptid in the last frontier. Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Alasquatch. Hope everybody's doing good out there. We're past Halloween, we're into November, and the snow's starting to fly. I'm looking out my window right now, seeing some flakes coming down. You're supposed to get about 4 inches here in the next 24 hours. We're going to see what happens. I know, depending, where you live within a 20-mile area, the forecast can be off by several inches. They can say, yeah, we're going to get 4 inches, and usually east of where I live, about 20 miles out, they can easily get about 8 inches or more on a forecast like that. So kind of curious to see what happens with them out there and with us here, because we're getting ready to travel. We're getting ready to load up and head down to the lower 48, outside, as we Alaskans call it. When we go to the lower 48, we're going to go outside, and we're going to do some visiting. We're going to visit some family. We're going to hopefully see some relatives I haven't seen in a while since, well, I guess since before the pandemic started. So it's going to be nice to get outside, see some people, and we're going to be showing up at Cryptid Con. And we'll get into all that here just in a little bit. I'm going to talk some more about Cryptid Con. I don't really have a set subject for the show today. I just thought I needed to get one out before we hit the road and just kind of give everybody an update on what's going on. And just kind of sit around and BS and, complain and and do some stuff, and then just kind of let everybody know what's going on with Alasquatch. We are, I've been pretty busy. If you listen to the show regularly on a regular basis, words are hard. If you listen to the show often, you know that I recently took over. I bought a business. It's a reselling business, basically a online retail company, and I've worked in retail before, physically, prior to my time in the military and law enforcement. And I never really cared for it much. And I thought, well, this will be different. It'll be, it's online, it'll be virtual. And it is a lot easier. I have to say, it's just, the people put in the orders, I package the orders, I ship the orders out, but there's still that small percentage, that tiny percentage of customers that just ask questions that should not be asked. Those questions like, well, if you just watch Clerks, the movie, and watch the scene where Dante's complaining about the customers that annoy him, and you'll see what I mean. Those people that are just, they ask a question about an item, and the answer to their question is on, it's in the item description. It's in the item that they're asking about. They could simply, it took them more time to send me a message to ask the question that they're asking me than it would have just to scroll another inch down on the page, and they would see the information that they're requesting from me. But my favorite, well, not my favorite, I guess my anti-favorite is the ones where the people ask a question about the measurements of the item and everything that we post, all the items that we sell, the clothing items anyway. We try and do a scale with the item. Like I'll take a picture with a measurement with a measuring tape showing the length or the width of the item. And about once a week I get a message from somebody saying, what's the measurement on this? And I'll go and I'll look at the item, because I'm thinking, man, almost all these listings have measurements. And sure enough, the it's there. They just didn't scroll far enough into pictures to see it. And, I'm complaining. It's it's super easy, barely an inconvenience, but, it's still just that, man, if those people would just pay a little bit more attention, have a little bit more awareness of their surroundings, I'm sure their life and mine would be so much better. But I know you guys don't want to hear about that. So, I wanted to, talk about, the show, the schedule for the show Last Watch here. We're going to move away from the weekly format that I've been doing for the last few weeks. There was a couple of reasons for that. One, we're coming up on the holidays. I'm going to be super busy with, my new business. And also I was trying to crank out shows there on a weekly basis, because of the advertising we were doing. We were doing a promotion with Manscaped. That promotion has now ended. I think you can probably still use the code. I haven't tried it to verify. I imagine they would keep it active for a while. But basically the time that they gave me is over. So they give me, they say, hey, we'd like to advertise with you for a month. And if you get X amount of people to use the code, then, we'll extend it or whatever. And so the promotion's over. They contacted me. They told me the numbers. And I was I was beyond disappointed. I was so bummed out. I was so depressed. I still am. I'm just like, I can't believe it. So basically, I mean, we're a small podcast, but the numbers are pretty good. They're not perfect, but they're pretty good. We just recently reached 10,000 downloads not too long ago. We haven't been going that long. It's a hard podcast for people to find because of the name. It doesn't have Bigfoot or Sasquatch in the title, so it can be hard for people to find. And so the Manscaped people said, we'd like to see, I'm not going to tell you the number, but it was in the single digits. Okay. It was in the single digits, and, we didn't meet that number, and I thought we would at least get halfway there, and we didn't. In fact, we were like one shy away from being halfway there. And, I was so bummed. I was so depressed. And so literally the only people that used the code were like a couple of family members. Well, it was more than a couple, but it was basically people that didn't even listen to the show that, I was just like, hey, I've got this advertising gig. You can get a percentage off these products if you use my code. And they're like, oh, well, that's cool. I'll do that for you. Or, I need some of that, so I will use your code. And, so yeah, it was, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I had set that goal for myself to get at least halfway to the goal and didn't reach that. So it was quite the blow to my, I don't necessarily think my ego. I guess it was my ego. I guess it was a blow to the ego. And, cause when I first read their response and the number, when they were like, well, this is how many people use the code, I was just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm never doing another podcast. I'm over it. So I basically quit the show over for like an hour and a half until I calmed down a little bit. And it wasn't that. And the thing that really aggravated me the most about it is the first show I did with commercials in it, I posted it to YouTube, and like, I don't know, the show was like 30 minutes long, an hour long, something like that. The show hadn't even been up long enough, I don't think, for somebody to listen to the entire show. I got one comment. It was what's the male version of a Karen? A Chad? I don't know. It was some dude saying, Sasquatch doesn't manscape and neither do men. Unsubscribe. So I'm like, within like 10 minutes of posting my first show with ads, I lost a subscriber. And then I find out I didn't even reach half the goal. So I was like, screw it. I'm done. So anyway, with that being said, obviously, I don't think ad campaigns are going to be a source of income for me, probably. So what are your guys' thoughts on Patreon? Because I mean, look, I know I'm not going to I'm not going to get rich off of this, but it would be nice because it actually costs me money to produce this podcast, believe it or not. It costs me $100 a year to have it hosted, basically to upload it somewhere. And they push it out to places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. So it costs me like $100 a year to do that. Then obviously, if I have to travel anywhere to record, or if I have to go see something, or if I have to, there's costs that are incurred with the production of anything. There's no such thing as free content. And I've always been gun shy about Patreon. And I'll tell you why. The first thing is I didn't want to have to be held to a schedule to where like, okay, I have to put X amount of shows out per month or whatever, or per week, because sometimes things happen and I get busy with other things, or I just don't have enough content to produce something. And the other part two of that is I didn't want to feel pushed to put out content I wasn't happy with. That's kind of my thing with podcasts that have Patreon, especially Cryptid podcasts, is it gets to a point where it's like, well, I might have this guest, or I might have this story, and I don't believe it. I don't think it's I think this guest might be telling a lie, or I think this story might not be true, but I got to make a podcast. I've got to put something out on this date. So here you go. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why I've never been a big fan of putting out a Patreon. So anyway, just, if you guys would maybe be willing to participate in a Last Watch Patreon, I have no idea what I would offer. I have no idea what, basically the tiers would be, what I would offer. I mean, I can guarantee there would be some great, scenery. We'd probably do some travel stuff, go to different places, do tours of things, trails, hotels, boat, excursions, stuff like that. Not Alaska travel stuff. And then, of course, we would have the cryptid stuff in there, and probably more guests, stuff like that. So let me know what you guys would think. I'm shy about doing a weekly deal. I think I'm not sure, and it would be fairly cheap. I'd try to keep it like $5 a month, something like that, or under. But it's something I'm considering. But that being said, the show, and until I probably decide what I'm going to do with that, the show is definitely going to scale back a little bit until after the holidays. So keep that in mind. I'm in the planning stages for some expeditions next year. I haven't really, I haven't firmed up any dates or anything like that, or even who's going with me. So if you guys are in Alaska or going to be in Alaska this year, and there's a possibility that maybe you might want to tag along on something, let me know. There's at least one, I don't want to say big. It's big for me because I got to go really far. There's one big Alaska expedition for me that I'm kicking around, and I'm thinking, later in the year, probably toward the end of August. I don't want to do it in September because this year I've promised myself that I'm going to go moose hunting next year because I didn't get to go this year. So toward the end of August, I'm probably going to do a pretty big expedition for me, and that meaning over a week out, away from home, and we'll see. And then I want to do at least one out of state expedition, and with that, I mean I have to go back to Washington, to the Stevens County area. I mean, I have to. And I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit because, man, if you guys are not following Bigfoot of Stevens County, you guys are missing out. You guys have got to get over there and take a look at some of his stuff. Will Ulmer, every time I'm on a podcast or something, I always like, oh, Will Ulmer's the greatest. Will was out at a location. I don't remember if he made it public or not, so I'm not going to say it on the show. But he was out at a location the other day where he's found some tracks before. And I believe he was out with, I don't know how to say it, Chihuahua, Bruce Trott and those guys. I believe he was out in the field with those guys. And they found some tracks near this lake. And some of them were pretty good. Really, really good looking tracks with some possible toe splay, stuff like that. And he cast one of the tracks, and it didn't have good toe definition, but holy cow, it is probably one of the best examples I've ever seen of a possible mid-tarsal break. I thought it was phenomenal. And I believe he's got a video up on his Facebook page of him showing the track, or the cast, and kind of moving it around, and you can really see as he turns it, you can really see what I believe is a good representation of a mid-tarsal break. And I thought it was phenomenal. It's one of the best examples of that I've seen. Like, if you guys watch my YouTube channel, you'll know Rob Roy Menzies and I were out at Area A earlier this year. And we found a track, and we cast it. It was very close to the cabin. So I was a little suspect of it, but it was at a weird angle in a weird place where, we have kind of defined areas around the cabin where we walk. Everybody, you have your trail that you use to get to your house or whatever, or get to your shed, and you don't deviate from that too much generally. People are creatures of habit. It was just in a weird spot, and it was facing a weird direction. And it was an odd size for a human track. So we cast it, pulled it out of the ground, got to looking at it, and we decided it was a boot track. It was a boot print. It just, you could see a well-defined heel, and a square heel. And, yeah, so, I mean, I'm glad we cast it. I'm glad we, pulled it out of the ground and took a good look at it. But it happens. And, I know Cliff is a big advocate. Cliff Barrickman is a big advocate of, cast everything. When in doubt, cast it out. And I don't always follow that philosophy. I'm kind of stingy with my casting material. There's some stuff that I've regretted casting. Regretted not casting. And but I always kind of felt that with the way technology is now, with the cameras that we have, with the quality of pictures that we can take, that casting isn't necessarily imperative. That, if you just take really good pictures, and a lot of them from a lot of different angles, it's just as good as, the same as taking a cast. And I've changed my thinking on that a little bit. I've kind of come around, and experience is a good teacher. And so that's kind of one of the things I've changed, has evolved in my mind since I've started doing this is, I went in it thinking like, well, we don't need to really cast anything if you just take really, really good pictures, with a high definition camera or video. And I've changed my mind on that. I think that probably it is important to cast things out, and get a really good look at the cast in a basically a 3D perspective, if that makes any sense. So I was thinking about having Will on the show. I'm sure, I haven't asked him, but I'm sure he would do it. And we might talk about those tracks, but I'm getting ready to travel, and I just don't have the time to put it together now, but possibly when I get back, something maybe after Thanksgiving, we might see if he can come on for a few minutes and talk about those casts, because That the one cast with the mid-tarsal break, or what I believe is a mid-tarsal break, is probably one of the best I've ever seen. He's doing some good work. He is really doing some good work there in Washington, and that's kind of why I want to get back up there, or I'm sorry, down there for one of my expeditions next year. Is one, to spend some time with him in the field, and two, I think that there is a good, I don't want to say chance, but it's just, I think it is a target-rich environment when it comes to Bigfoot. I don't say that in the context that I want to shoot one, but I think there's a bigger chance of having encounters and experiences down there than there is, say, here, where they've got so much room to roam, and just it's a needle in a haystack. And I think down there the haystack's a little smaller, not much, but when compared to Alaska, it is smaller, if that makes any sense. So not sure when I'm going to announce those expeditions, probably after the first of the year. And depending on, I'm probably not going to announce exactly where I'm going, just give you a general, like it's going to be in this area. Because obviously I don't want people tromping around where I am researching, and I don't want any hoaxers around. So just keep listening, keep tuning here. Sometime after the year, I'll probably be announcing some dates and some general areas for the expeditions I'm going to be doing next year. And what else? I've been listening and watching a lot of YouTube videos on like pop culture and movies and stuff like that recently. And I thought, man, I've done some like Bigfoot book reviews. I think I did a movie review of Godzilla versus Kong. But I think I might start talking about pop culture a little bit more on here, or maybe even start another podcast where I talk about movies, comic books, stuff like that, books. I don't read as much as I used to. I bought the sequel to Ready Player One. I bought the book when it came out. I pre-ordered it, got it the week it came out, sat down, started reading it, and I think I'm over halfway done with it. I mean, it came out like early this year, like March or something, maybe even before that. And it has been a beast to get through because it is not as good as the first book. So anyway, I was toying with maybe doing some book reviews, stuff like that, and stuff that's not necessarily cryptid related. Or maybe that needs its own place, another show, or maybe just wait and see on that. I don't know. I don't really want to, like I said, this podcast, it already cost me money to produce, and I can't imagine starting another one right now. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on next weekend, which will be November 20th to the 21st. I am going to be at Cryptid Con in Lexington, Kentucky. That's going to be at the Clarion Conference Center. And I'm going to be there. I'm going to have a booth where I'm going to be selling my book, Abandoned, History and Horror of Port Chatham. We're going to be selling Lasquatch t-shirts. So if you want to pick up a Lasquatch t-shirt, this is your chance. Swing by the booth and say hello, get your book, get it signed. We're going to have some other cool little stickers and shot glasses and stuff like that for sale. It's going to be a great event this year. There's going to be a lot of people there. You're going to have Matt, Renee, and Cliff from Finding Bigfoot. And unfortunately, I guess Bobo had to cancel. He had to pull out. I'm a little disappointed because I thought, man, this is going to be the first time that those four have been together at a conference since Finding Bigfoot was on the air. And I'm not normally like, I'm going to like, I try not to be like a fanboy while I'm doing stuff like that at conferences, and especially when I've got my own booth. But I thought if I get a chance, I want to get my picture made with all four of those people, but it's not going to happen. The Mountain Monsters guys are going to be there. Huckleberry, Buck, Wild Bill, and Willie. I'm sorry. I've only watched the show a couple of times. Not real familiar with those guys. I know it's really popular with some people, so this is going to be your chance to come and meet with them if you want. I believe my booth is just a couple tables down from the Mountain Monsters guys. So if you want to go see them, you can, if the line's too long, you can swing over and see me. Or after you get done talking to them, you can come over and see us. Ron Moorhead's going to be there from the Sierra Sounds. Seth Breedlove from Small Town Monsters. Can't wait to see Seth again. Always enjoy his company. My good friend and colleague Adam Davies is going to be there. Can't wait to see Adam again. We're going to hang out. I'm sure we're going to be at the bar at least one of those nights buying each other drinks. Charlie Raymond from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization. Tracy and Jerry Pauly. I believe they do a podcast called Hillbilly Horror Stories. Thomas Shea, a Kentucky Bigfoot researcher. Geraldine Stith. Not sure who she is. I think she is some relation to the people from the Hopkinsville Goblins thing. Because there's like a Hopkinsville Goblin in her picture with her. Kenny Irish, who is a cryptozoologist author. And Zach Bales, who I believe is an author and researcher. I believe he does cryptid and ghost stuff. You can buy tickets at cryptidcon.com. They also have a Facebook that you can check out. They've got tickets available. Weekend passes and single day tickets. All the VIP stuff is sold out, including their Bigfoot expedition. And there was something else I want. Oh, and Saturday night. So if you come on Saturday night after the vendor hall closes, I believe from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., I'm going to be taking part in a podcaster panel. It's going to be a cryptid podcast panel. There's going to be several of us there, it looks like. Sasquatch Tracks, Midnight in Kentucky, Cryptid Crunch, Hillbilly Horror Stories, Cryptid Creatures, Strangeology Podcast, and Creep Geeks. And we're going to be, I guess, there's going to be a panel. People are going to be able to ask us questions. We're going to talk about basically what it's like to podcast about the paranormal. And I think it's going to be a cool show. I'm really looking forward to the panel. I'm not super familiar with some of these podcasts. I really want to check out Midnight in Kentucky because, as you guys know, I grew up in Kentucky. That's one of the reasons why I'm going to Cryptid Con, basically, is just so, I mean, it's going to be fun to go to the conference, but it's also a chance to go and visit family. So, yeah, that's what's going to be going on. Again, that is going to be November 20th through 21st. So if you can make it, I think it's going to be a really good time. I think there's going to be a lot of people there. There's some great guests. They've always had a really good turnout there. So come by, see us. Spend one of the days or both of the days walking around. There's going to be a lot of vendors there. In fact, I wanted to talk about some of the vendors, and I closed my page that I was on. Here we go. There's going to be Pedikov Media is going to be there. Alex Pedikov, of course. He does Sasquatch Out of the Shadows podcast. Looking forward to meeting Alex. I don't think I've never met him in person. I have been on his podcast before. Let's see. I'm going to read some of the vendors off here. There's the Cryptid Comforts, Mystic Novelty Company, recently deceased Art, Crowtown Squatchers, Scully Pop Designs, Midnight in Kentucky Podcast, Geek Mountain, Jamie Snell, Cat on the Moon Art, Wild and Weird West Virginia, Bali Raven, Strangeology, Jason Shepard Artwork, Moth Boys Podcast, Appalachian Huntsman, Black Sheep Studios, MetaZoo Games. I believe I had one of them on here talking about the game one time, the Cryptid collectible card game. Cryptid HQ, Cup Creations, Maximus Prime Art, the Deadbolt Mystery Society, Bigfoot search gear, which I believe is going to be right next to my table. I believe they have 2 tables, and they are adjacent to mine. One of them is. Misty's Creation, Strange Days, Valley Victories, Sasquatch Tracks Podcast, Official Squatch Shop, The Hodag Store, writer Jim Beard, Craig Cartography, Broken Branch Designs, Pennyroyal Podcast, International Paranormal Museum and Research Center, Conjure Dust Designs, and I think there are a lot more. I'm not going to read every single one, but that's just a sampling, a taste, if you will, of what you can experience at Cryptid Con 2021. I think we're going to have a good time. Looking forward to seeing Adam and Seth and all my other friends again that are going to be there. So anyway, guys, obviously not sure what the schedule is going to look like for the next couple of weeks as far as releases go. I might try. I always say this. I say this every time, and I never do it. I always say I might try and record a podcast there at the conference, but I never do. So I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But maybe I'll try and go live. It depends on how much, what kind of cell signal we get in the building there. Maybe I'll do some Facebook Live stuff or something. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. But just keep an eye open. Again, that's November 20th, 21st in Kentucky. If you can't make it, keep an eye on my Instagram and Facebook pages, and maybe we'll pop up and do a couple live videos. Maybe we will put out a podcast while we're there. I don't know. I every time I say that, I never do it. So anyway, if you're going to be there, come and see me. You know, I'm just a guy from Kentucky coming home, and gonna visit some family, and hopefully hang out with some of my cryptid brothers and sisters too. So anyway, guys, that's all I'm gonna do for this week. I will be back probably after Thanksgiving, after Turkey Day, and we'll drop something after that, and start getting ready for Christmas. This year is it's going by pretty fast. So anyway, guys, how many times am I going to say bye? Anyway, guys, take it easy. Be careful out there. Winter's coming. Don't drive fast on the slick stuff, and be safe out there. And I will see you possibly during Cryptid Con, but for sure see you after Cryptid Con. So take care, and don't eat too much turkey on Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.